out of the gate. We all know I got this new job at Barstool. I don't know if you guys heard. And all of a sudden I have like 11 season win total futures bet. I got a Super Bowl ticket. These are not things that I traditionally bet. But I was really high on the Washington football team. I did bet their season win total over as well. VR, I know you don't have anything on the NFC East, so I'm going to let you go last because I think this is a really good talking point. But Marco, tell me, are you in agreement with me? Are we head to head? Tell me you don't like the Cowboys at least.
Well, I don't like the Cowboys, and we're kind of in agreement in a different way. Where I thought the best value for Washington is I took the yes-no to make the playoffs. I can get plus 145 with them. Now, if I want to take them for the division, yeah, I can get a higher price, but I have to win the division. Here, I'm getting, a little bit of a hedge with my wager because they could technically not win the division and still make the playoffs, but very unlikely the team that doesn't win this division is not going to be the only way you're making the playoffs if it's been the NFC least like it's been the last couple of years. I do like the Washington Redskins. I think they're live to make the playoffs. And really, if you look at them, they made the playoffs last year, and they really didn't have a quarterback. Alex Smith was the quarterback last year, came in midseason, and got them to the playoffs. We got Fitzmagic this year. And I think that this is his team for once. He doesn't have to look over his shoulder, waiting for somebody that's going to take his job. This is his job to lose, whether he just stinks up the joint or gets hurt. It's his team. And I think they're going to respond to that. They've got a good defense that'll actually be better this year, Kelly, because the offense will stay on the field longer. How many times have I talked about this? The best defense is a good offense. If your team can get time of possession, win that battle for you, your defense is going to play better. The less snaps you're on the field defensively, the better their numbers are going to be. And that's what I feel for the Washington football team. I got through that whole segment without saying their former name. Do I get a gold star,
No,
Kelly?
you totally said their former name. I snickered when you did. That's
I
the best
missed
part.
it. Oh,
it's like, yeah, you totally said it. And it breaks my heart that we have to call them the Washington football team. The best name in football. I don't care what anybody says. I hope they keep it. All right, Marco, all jokes aside, you definitely dropped an R bomb right out of the gate. Who else are you betting for this NFC East preview?
Well, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles under 6.5 wins. I'm not sold on the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know, maybe my buddy Gianni will have something to say about his former hometown, but I'm not sold. If Jalen Hurts is your quarterback and you already go out and trade for Gardner Minshew, that's not a good sign on any level. And I'm just not sold on this team. I look at their schedule, Kelly. If you stare down what they're looking at to start the season, this team really could open the season at 0-4. And then you go from that. Remember, the NFC this year is going to have 9 road games. I don't like them. 6.5 wins. I don't see them getting to 7. I'll go ahead, take the under. And you'll see that with most of the season win totals that I'm taking this year, Kelly, they're basically going to be unders or I'm not playing them. And the reason for that, the NFL said this year, you know what, we're not going to mess around with the COVID issues. If you can't play, you're going to forfeit. Okay, I wish they would have did that last year. My Pittsburgh Steelers might not have had that 11-0 collapse being screwed around, moving all the games that they did last year to accommodate Tennessee and Baltimore. But that's another story for another rant. So be careful with betting overs because you always got to dodge a bullet of injuries. If you lose your starting quarterback, that's a big killer for overs. But if you start throwing in a forfeit here or there and giving away a win, I don't want to do that because the season win total market generally is pretty close to where the numbers should be. There's not generally a lot of margin for error, and I don't want to have one of those forfeits end up costing me a wager.
Be careful at where you decide to bet as well, because every book is going to have different rules based on the forfeiture. So pay attention where you're making your wagers and make sure that you understand those sportsbook rules. All right, VR, do you want a rebuttal here on the Philadelphia Eagles?
No. Honestly, I don't even want to waste any of the viewers' time. As far as, I'm not going to enlighten anyone with my insights on the NFC East, the AFC East, the whatever. That stuff I will not enlighten you. But for me, here's going into the NFL season, how I'm approaching season win totals and futures. Historically, I used to love betting season win totals. I get excited every year for all sports because we crush them. And knowing that the groups that I work with are willing to bet into markets that may have a little slighter hold, and more importantly, make bets that aren't going to cash for 5-6 months, when they're willing to do this, and in some cases, you're even tying up some of that money in non-interest bearing accounts, obviously the edge is high enough to get you excited and want to get money involved and turn that ROI and go into the season knowing when it's all concluded, you got a bunch of futures that are probably going to bring you some more money. But I knew going into this year it was going to be different. Here's why. Last year was an outlier with COVID, number one. Completely different season. So all those analytics, pretty much, you don't know how much weight to put on them. Number two, outlier season. We saw things we never saw before. Scoring. Yes, it's continued to go up year by year, but the jump it made was a little exponential. Like we're seeing things happen last year offensively that even though, again, it's become more of an offensive league, the jump it made during last year is an outlier. Perfect example. 2016, 17, 18, and 19, 4 straight years, the average team got called with 22 holding penalties. Every year it's the same, between 21.1 and 22.8, all between one holding penalty over those 4 years. Last year, it dropped to 14.9. They called 25, 30% less holding penalties. So obviously, there's going to give the quarterback more time. He's going to complete more passes. There's going to be more offense, and more scoring. Now, is that going to continue this year? I don't know. Some of these teams that depend on that, obviously, it's going to matter a lot. So that uncertainty, I knew that the groups I work with, they're not going to be willing to invest so much money and time, seriously, into these futures because the risk just doesn't add up to the reward. It just doesn't. Again, how much of an edge can you possibly have? Let's say you're so sharp, you have a 30% edge. So minus their 5, whatever percent. Let's say you have a 25% edge over the book. You're Billy Walters on steroids. You have a 25% edge over the book, okay? So you go from September through January. That's 5 months. What is that, 5% a month you made? I can tell you right now that analyzed return for Bitcoin over the last decade has been 200% per year. That's what, 19% a month. Even if you cut that in half, you have more risk buying crypto. I mean, less risk, more return. It's probably the same if you put it in Google or Amazon or Tesla or something like that. Again, a lot of more volatility. But what I'm saying is I approach sports betting the way I do investing. It's what am I going to trade my dollar in for? I have this dollar. Am I willing to trade it? Am I willing to make this bet for this trade? Is there more upside? If there's not, I'm not making the trade. And again, there's just not enough upside for me to bet a bunch of futures this year. I'm more excited for week by week, game by game. But as we go through AFC, NFC, I'll pass along the couple of season win totals we did bet and any other nuggets I could pass along. Like tonight, Argentina -1 over Venezuela in the Gold Cup.
I love it so much. Hopefully this gets out in time before, what do they call it? First kick? I don't even know you guys know I'm terrible at soccer. Anyway, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to see if maybe VR's got a nugget for you guys in the NFC North.
Football is back, and Gianni the Greek is looking to repeat his legendary football season from last year, where he finished #1 in the NFL, picking up 197% in profit, and #2 in college football, increasing his client bankrolls by 56%. Even more impressive, Ace finished 2020 the #1 overall profit title at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, where he not only took the crown, but he has never had a losing calendar year at WagerTalk. Right now, you can take $500 off his 1-year all access, locking up all of Gianni's plays for the next 12 months using coupon code ACE500. This coupon code expires Sunday at midnight, so act fast before the $500 discount disappears. Marco D'Angelo's baseball is hitting 68% since the All-Star break, going 34-16, netting his clients a profit of $5,601, making him the #1 MLB handicapper at WagerTalk since the midpoint of the season. So how would you like to get the rest of Marco's baseball free throughout the World Series? Through Sunday at midnight, if you purchase Marco's college football and NFL combo package, we'll toss you in his baseball selections through the World Series for free of $449 value. To redeem your free Major League Baseball through the World Series, just email support@wagertalk.com after you purchase, and we'll add your access within 24 hours.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Now we're moving over to the NFC North, home of Aaron Rodgers. He seemed to dominate this division for a better half of this last decade. That being said, is he going to dominate it again? I don't know if I'm going to have my money on the Vikings. I'm all over the place when it comes to this division. But Marco, one thing I did put my money where my mouth was on that Chicago Bears season win total under. I'm surprised I didn't get a lot more hate on Twitter, but here we are. Do you agree with me? Do you like my Bears under? And who do you have winning the NFC North and any futures bets in this division?
I've got one bet in this division, Kelly, because there's no value in this division. Unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, the Packers are not losing this division. The Lions are the Lions. The Vikings, every year, Zimmer, we know how you like Coach Zimmer, and I like him at times too, but they just can't get over the hump against Green Bay. And then that leaves the Bears, and that's the game that I'm going to talk about, or the team, I should say. And I'm with you, Kelly. The only bet I made was under 7.5 wins with the Chicago Bears. And here's the thing. We all know, we're hearing all the hype about the rookie Justin Fields for Chicago, but he's not going to be there to start the season. We're going to see some Andy Dalton, and we'll see what happens there. But I look at this schedule, and I'm looking at, once we get to October, have you looked at the schedule that they have in the month of October? It is an absolute murderous schedule. They start with Green Bay in the middle of October. Then they go on the road to Tampa Bay. They come back home to San Francisco. They go on the road to my Pittsburgh Steelers, and then they have Baltimore. We're talking about 4 of those 5 games are legitimate playoff contenders. And sadly, we'll talk about that in another segment. The one team that's not is a perennial playoff team, the Steelers. So that's a 5-game stretch that they really could end up going 1-4. And if they go 1-4 during that stretch, then yeah, you are going to see Justin Fields. And how productive is a rookie going to be thrown to the wolves? So I don't like this team for the over the season win totals. I'm taking them under. Remember, the NFC teams have the extra road game this year. Another thing to factor in there. And I just got to go under. That's the only place there's value. If you want to eat chalk, yeah, take Green Bay, win the division, take Green Bay, yes, on to make the playoffs. And basically the only way you're not cashing is if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt.
VR, Marco brought up value. And when I did my Green Bay Packers preview for Barstool, I said, look, I thought 2-1 was fairly cheap for this team. I'm not going to lay that kind of chalk, but pricing wise, can you discuss futures bets like that and whether or not they actually do hold value?
I'll tell you what, Kelly, unless I'm looking at a future bet in that, if you're looking for a division, obviously you're not going to get in that double-digit to 1 range. As far as Super Bowl futures, the hold is so high on those kind of pools because they're like horse racing. As money comes in, the odds change. And the book has some of them pools are upwards of 30-40%. So it's so hard to beat them that at least if you're going to bet a future, have some return. Make the upside as high as it can be. Of course, you're not going to get the best of it, but you know that going in. At least make a nice score. And please, again, don't get me wrong. I know a lot of viewers out there do it for fun and entertainment. So you should bet some futures and you should bet some season win totals. And fortunately, Kelly had do every single team deep dive for Barstool, and Marco has more money than all of us, so he could dig into sports all day and just dig into teams. And I don't have that luxury with different stuff that I have to do. So don't take me wrong when I say I'm not investing my own money in that. Not saying other people shouldn't. It just depends on how you're approaching it. So if you're going to bet those futures as far as winning a division, winning a conference, winning a Super Bowl, I honestly would not bet the favorites, because you're better off just waiting until the playoffs come, and then you could just bet that team and roll that bet over, kind of like a progression where you bet it in. If they get to the wild card, then the next round to the Super Bowl. If they win the Super Bowl, you're going to probably end up making more than if you got them at 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1 earlier anyway. Who knows? But just saying, those are some different ways to look at it, as opposed to just waiting to bet sides in the games like I do. And finally, real quick, I agree with your Chicago. That's one of them on myself that I like. I thought last year, 8-8, they're a plus 2 point differential team. That's who they were. That's who they should be. But there's a regression coming from what you see, from what they lost and what they gained. The regression's coming. It could only get worse from here. Like I said, my concern is we now have 17 games. The COVID things, if one team can't play, what happens there with the the forfeitures and all, like those kind of wrenches that could be thrown into the mix. That uncertainty makes me a little more cautious. But I agree with that Chicago pick under for sure. And real quick, Taylor Fritz minus 105 over Brooksby in tennis tonight.
Tennis! Oh my goodness. Just coming across VR's computer screen.
It should be US Open, I think, right? Taylor Fritz.
Okay. All right. I'm on it. I'm going to bet that during this commercial break. And then when we come back, we're going to have some TNA with Ralph Michaels.
We've rolled back our football prices. WagerTalk's first full year was 2015, and we've lowered our football season packages to match what we charged that football season. Why? It's simple. We want to make our season-long packages an extraordinary value. You can buy a full college football season or full NFL season for only $5.99 each. But if you buy a college football NFL combo from the same handicapper, you pay only $8.99. Looking to mix and match handicappers? We have you covered. Just email support at WagerTalk.com for a bundle discount and to create any handicapper combo you can dream of. Marco D'Angelo's baseball is hitting 68% since the All-Star break, going 34-16, netting his clients a profit of $5,601, making him the #1 MLB handicapper at WagerTalk since the midpoint of the season. So how would you like to get the rest of Marco's baseball free throughout the World Series? Through Sunday at midnight, if you purchase Marco's college football and NFL combo package, we'll toss you in his baseball selections to the World Series for free of $449 value. To redeem your free Major League Baseball through the World Series, just email support at WagerTalk.com after you purchase, and we'll add your access within 24 hours.
Time for some TNA with Mr. Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV, the guy with the pin every single week, dropping great information. Ralph, this is our NFC preview video, but you told me you're going to come with some hardcore NFL information for us.
Well, Cal, since you guys are talking about conferences and win totals, what I want to do is give you 5 different perspectives within the 2 segments, the NFC segment and the AFC segment, 5 segments combined, to give you a different way at looking at how a team progresses from one year to the next. You know, I heard VR in the college segment talk about parity in the NFL and parity in college football. Well, from NFL, from top to bottom, you may have a 17-point swing. That's basically less than the SEC has, let alone 1 to 130 in college football. So there's a lot of ebb and flow. There's a lot of things that you look at one season at work that rebound back to the median or the norm the next. The first thing I want to talk about, the first of the 5, are turnovers. When an NFL team has an extraordinary amount of turnovers on the plus side or minus side, they tend to revert back the next season. When teams are plus 11 or more turnovers in one season, the next season, they decrease their record 65% of the time, or they hold the same record 12% of the time. So when a team has plus 11 or more turnovers, 77% of the time, they are the same record or worse. What three teams do we need to look at that last year were positive turnovers? Tennessee was plus 11. Indianapolis was just there at plus 10. And the teams that just missed the cut, but I still want to mention, New Orleans, Miami, and Pittsburgh, all at plus 9. So those 5 teams, when I'm looking at season win totals, I have arrow down marks. On the reverse side, teams that were minus 10 turnovers or more, those that had bad seasons, 80% of those teams improve or stay the same, 67% improve. So the teams that you should have a small arrow up, Denver was minus 16 turnovers, San Fran and Las Vegas minus 11, Philly minus 10, and Detroit and Houston just missed the cut. So I have a spreadsheet. All the NFL teams in turnovers, I mark those moving up and I mark those moving down. That's the first part of my 5 segments we'll go over.
Ralph, I love to hear that. I'm on a couple of those unders and a couple of those overs. So great to hear those trends. What else have you dug up for us?
Yards per game. It seems pretty simple when you're analyzing an NFL team. If a team is 8-8, that means at the end of the year, theoretically, they should be plus 0 yards per game. They allow 350 yards per game. They average 350 yards per game. Well, if you look through the history of the NFL and record-wise, every 20 yards per game you are plus, that translates into an extra win. So a 9-7 team is normally plus 20 yards per game. 2 wins plus 20 yards. If you're plus 40 yards a game, that means you're normally plus 4 wins. So a 10-6 team. So when I look at the NFL and I break down differences, the biggest example, San Francisco last year. San Francisco was a 6-10 team. So if you look at their yards per game and you go theoretically, they should have been minus 40 yards per game. They were actually plus 55.8 yards per game. So their record was far below what they got in yards per game. It gives them a 5.86, a 6-win difference, which to me is the biggest up you can get. So those teams that I think are going to improve because their yards per game were less than their record provided, San Francisco, Carolina, and Atlanta. Add in the LA Chargers, the LA Rams, and Jacksonville. Now, the LA Rams are an interesting team. They were a 10-win team, but yet their yards per game performed even higher than that. Those teams on the downside, Seattle, Miami, Kansas City, Tennessee, Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Cleveland, and Green Bay. So again, going through the process, I mark my ups for turnovers, I mark my up and downs for yards per game, and to catch the last 3, make sure you check out the AFC segment on Bet On It.
I will be there for it, Ralph. Thank you so much to our WagerTalk stat daddy, Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV. Ralph just crushed 20,000 Twitter followers, and if you're not one of them, you are missing out on a ton of incredible information. Next up, the NFC South, right when we come back from this commercial break.
Football is back, and Gianni the Greek is looking to repeat his legendary football season from last year, where he finished number 1 in the NFL, picking up 197% in profit, and number 2 in college football, increasing his client bankrolls by 56%. Even more impressive, Ace finished 2020 the number 1 overall profit title at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo, where he not only took the crown, but he has never had a losing calendar year at WagerTalk. Right now, you can take $500 off his 1-year all access, locking up all of Gianni's plays for the next 12 months using coupon code ACE500. This coupon code expires Sunday at midnight, so act fast before the $500 discount disappears.
Moving along to the NFC South, Now, this was a tough one for me. I'm not betting against Tom Brady because what happened last year, I got a great number. I got 10 in the hook against my good buddy Chris. He was such a big Tom Brady fan. I said, give me the hook. We're not pushing on 10. Somehow, let's see. The Bucs beat the Washington football team after being down. Marco and I were watching that game. That being said, I lost my bet. I'm not betting against the Bucs here, but we all know I'm a big Jameis Winston fan this year. I think the New Orleans Saints might shock some people. And I know Marco made a comment about Philly being the R's team, but if I remember correctly, the Saints are actually his team. So I can't wait to get his take on this team. Marco, I am not touching the Atlanta Falcons. I am not touching the Carolina Panthers in any form or fashion. I need to see something other than what I've seen the past few seasons from both of those teams. Your thoughts on the NFC South?
Well, you're going to like when I get to Jameis Winston, but let's start with Carolina because I do have a season win total on Carolina, and it's the only one that I've taken over the total. I'm going over 7.5 wins. And Kelly, there's several reasons why I'm going to do this. First of all, we're going to get Christian McCaffrey back this year. We know how big of a role he plays for that offense. We're also getting a quarterback down there, Sam Darnold at Carolina. Now, I know they had Teddy Bridgewater last year, and I really don't feel that Carolina gave Teddy Bridgewater enough of a chance. I didn't like the move, them releasing him, go in a different direction. I think it's a great move. We'll talk about it when we get to Denver in the AFC. But what I want to point out is the reason why I think they pulled the plug too soon is last year, Teddy Bridgewater had to come in, learn an entirely new system with no preseason, no mini camps, optional workouts in the spring and stuff. They had to go into the season on the blind. A new coaching staff, a coaching staff that was making a transition from college football to NFL. I love Coach Rule, but again, it's an adjustment from the college level to the NFL level. Now he's got a year under his belt. They do have a preseason this year, and he's got a quarterback, Sam Darnold, that, let's face it, he was under the leadership of Adam Gase the last 2 years. That'll ruin anybody's career. So I think there's a lot of upsides to this Carolina team. They'll be able to run the football. And if you look at Sam Darnold, he didn't have a running game in New York anytime that he was there. Yeah, they got Le'Veon Bell, but that was a disaster. Le'Veon Bell found out that you can't run without an offensive line. He's got a good offensive line in Carolina. I like this team over 7.5 wins. It is my only over wager on season win totals. Now, with that said, Kelly, I do have something for you on Jameis Winston if you want me to swing into it.
Absolutely.
All right. We're going to go with the Saints to make the playoffs. I'm going to take them at plus 110 on the yes to make the playoffs. I think the Saints are underrated this year because Drew Brees is gone and retired. Everybody's naturally expecting them to have a decline. Now, with that said, I don't think so. And why don't I think so? Well, enter Jameis Winston. And, when you used to say Jameis Winston, the first thing you thought of was crab legs. Well, until he had the 30 interception season. Now we think of the 30 interceptions. And that's all you hear everybody talk about. So I'm going to give you a twist on Jameis Winston where I'm going. And you can get this. I saw a high water mark of 16-1 and a low water mark of 10-1. But I'm taking Jameis Winston for comeback player of the year. Now, I know the two favorites for that are obviously Dak Prescott because of the injury last year and being a quarterback, he's the favorite for that. And then we mentioned Christian McCaffrey coming back from injury. But history has shown us that quarterback generally wins this award. Also, history has shown us it's usually a playoff team that does it. So if Jameis Winston comes back and fills in for a future Hall of Famer, Drew Brees, and everybody has badmouthed him for the last couple years about those 30 interceptions, remember, that was Bruce Arians' offense. It was the first year that he was in it. Bruce Arians' offense stretches the field. They go downfield. That's a high-risk, high-reward offense. You didn't see the Saints stretch the field 40 yards downfield with Drew Brees last year. He didn't have the arm strength. They'll have that element this year, but it'll be in a more controlled environment, not taking the risk with the football. I think he has a big year with the Saints, and if they make the playoffs, he's going to get a lot of love, and I think he's worth a shot at anywhere from 10 to 16 to 1, and that is the thing, and VR can address this more, the futures market, because we have so many different outlets with, the different sports books out there now legal in different states. Shop, shop, shop. I can't emphasize that enough because you're going to get big differences on these type of bets.
Yeah, absolutely, Marco. We always stress that important factor, especially when you live in states like New Jersey or Vegas is not a state, Nevada, where there are a lot of different sports books. That's what VR does for a living. He goes around and he shops. He cherry picks the best numbers. VR, do you want to piggyback on what Marco said about the Saints?
Yeah, and listen, I didn't make any 5% plays in the NFL season win totals. I did in college football a couple, and I know I didn't share them yesterday. So real quickly, I did the 5% that I gave out was under 8.5 Iowa, over 5.5 Southern Miss, over 3 South Florida. So that's under 8.5, minus 115 Iowa, over 5.5, minus 150 Southern Miss, over 3, minus 130 South Florida. I don't know if they're still up because the college football season starts, but I just wanted to share that because I appreciate all you guys that watched yesterday, that smash that like button. And I loved reading the comments. I swear I read them all. I don't have time to reply to all of them, just like DMs. I just can't, man. Like when there's a contenders, there's like hundreds of people like DM and stuff. I keep them open, but it's just impossible to reply. But I love it, and I read them all. So please, I want to see your picks and where you agree and disagree. Before the game, not after. Save that nonsense. Listen, I'm sorry to disagree with you, but this is one of the NFL plays I actually bet. That when the group site I work with bet it, and then I bet it and released it to subscribers. When I dig in. If I agree, I pass it along. And we bet it under 9.5, and I gave it out at under 9 plus 110 as a 4% play. And the reason is simple: it's an offensive league. And I know that many are going to argue, listen, New Orleans third in team yards per point last year defensively, top 5 in defensive points allowed defensively. So if that defense is so good, it'll give some time for the offense to get going. You don't have time. Listen, it's the NFL. It's a 17-game season. Yeah, there's only one more they added. It's not all that much. And I think you're going to see a regression from the Saints. Number one, I don't like the fact they were a top 5 turnover positive differential team. There's always regression and progression towards the mean with that. Those top teams are Tennessee, Indianapolis, Miami, Saints, Pittsburgh. I'd look at fumbles especially because those should be around 50-50. Any team that did really good on the fumble side, expect a regression. Now, real quickly, don't want to waste your time, but with New Orleans, it's pretty simple. Dude, you lose the franchise. You lost Drew Brees. Just him not even in the clubhouse, in the locker room matters. I get it. He can't throw more than 30, 40 yards, but it's going to take a while for that team to get over not having Drew Brees. If you haven't been to New Orleans, I don't think you understand how big he is to that city. Drew Brees is the New Orleans Saints. After Katrina, Drew Brees was the Saints. He's gone now. And with him goes Emmanuel Sanders. Well, he was the number 2 in targets. Jared Cook, he's gone. This is going to be a new offense for the Saints. In an offensive league, I'm not betting them over with a tough schedule. I'm sorry. They're in my heart, but I got kids to feed. So under 9 plus 110.
Whoa. All right. Well, that's disappointing. We disagree there. I didn't bet the Saints over. I did, however, draft Jameis.
I could be way off. I wouldn't be too unhappy.
It's all good. I did not bet this team. This was a really, really tough division for me, and one of the ones I did not enjoy looking over because I felt like there was just a ton of uncertainty. And again, yeah, let me bet against Tom Brady once again in my life, the guy who's got one of the best ATS records with the Patriots. You and I used to go on tangents about Tom Brady back in the day on bet on it. Like, you just wanted to beat your head against the wall going 9.5, 10.5. It didn't matter. The Patriots got it done against us. That being said, we're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to chat about the NFC West.
We've rolled back our football prices. WagerTalk's first full year was 2015, and we've lowered our football season packages to match what we charged that football season. Why? It's simple. We want to make our season-long packages an extraordinary value. You can buy a full college football season or full NFL season for only $5.99 each. But if you buy a college football NFL combo from the same handicapper, you pay only $8.99. Looking to mix and match handicappers? We have you covered. Just email support@wagertalk.com for a bundle discount and to create any handicapper combo you can dream of. Why pay regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of better. From as low as $90 gets $100, all the way up to $3,500 gets you $5,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.
Welcome back to Bet On It. Mr. Ralph Michaels already gave us a play in the NFC West. He said he liked the San Francisco 49ers to win this division. He has a flyer on them to win the Super Bowl. I don't know who I like to win this division. I think it's a toss-up between the Rams and the Niners, but I did bet the Seattle Seahawks not to make the playoffs. Sorry, Seattle fans, don't hate me. I just think this is the toughest division we're going to see in a long time. This is going to be absolutely cutthroat. Even though the Arizona Cardinals season win total is only at 8, I do think that this team is going to be in the mix. They're going to spring some upsets, and they're going to upset some people. Again, I apologize to the Seahawks fans. I'm a big Tyler Lockett fan, and I hope he doesn't see this video. Marco, what do you think about the NFC West this season?
Well, I agree with the San Francisco 49ers. I bet them at plus 175 to win the NFC West. And why not? There's so much hype with the Rams since they got Stafford from Detroit. And yeah, that's a definite upgrade. There's no question about it. But he's got to learn a new system with McVay. And this is a division that is tough. When you've got Seattle and Russell Wilson in there, you've got the 49ers and you've got the Rams. Those 3 teams can really beat up on each other. And then you've got the Arizona Cardinals. Now, we'll see my opinion on them when I get to my next play in this division. But for the 49ers, if it wouldn't be for injuries, this team has been there every single season. They've got a strong running game, which only aids the quarterback. And I know there's going to be a lot of pressure, so-called pressure on Jimmy G, because you got Trey Lance waiting in the wings. This is a team that's built to win right now. This is Jimmy G's team to win right now, and he knows he's got to perform. If he doesn't, they're going to be calling for Trey Lance sooner than later. And I think Jimmy G is going to handle that pressure and deliver the 49ers. He generally doesn't make the bonehead mistake for you. He's going to play a controlled game, and they call an offensive game plan that generally keeps him out of trouble. And sometimes they're a little bit too conservative, as we saw in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago when they blew the lead to Kansas City. I think they took their foot off the gas a little too soon in that game. But I'm going to go with the 49ers. My choice to emerge. I just feel that there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve with Matthew Stafford to get the offense and get on the same page with all of the receivers. I think the 49ers are the team to beat. I like that running game. And I'm old school. I know it's a throwing league, but you know what? When you're trying to protect leads and you can run the football and take pressure off your quarterback and still have that threat play action and go downfield, I love it. Let's take the 49ers to get the job done in the NFC West for play number 1. Play number 2, Kelly, I am going to look at those Arizona Cardinals. And as we said, this is such a competitive division that I think they're going to beat up on each other a little bit. And without question, when you're talking about a division that's got the Rams, the 49ers, and Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson in Seattle, that leaves Arizona, in my opinion, with the short stick or short straw, whatever you want to do with the division. And there's still some 8.5s out there to get here in town on the season win total. And I went under the 8.5 with the Arizona Cardinals. I just don't see them getting to 9 wins. I look at their schedule and I don't know how they can do it. They've got 9 road games this year. And if you look at their first 9 games on the schedule, I really only circle 2 of them as automatic gimmies. All of the other games, they're going to be underdogs or flip of the coin type games. And if we look at what happened last year, Kyler Murray regressed a bit. Was it just, the sophomore jinx, or was it the fact that, hey, they had, a little bit of a gimmicky offense coming from, the college coach coming to the NFL, and now you got game film on everybody and you're figuring it out? I'm going for the latter. He has to show me that he can make a progression before I can bet an over on a season win total there. And let's be honest, game management last year wasn't the strength of the Arizona coaching staff. They blew some games last year with some very questionable play calling. I'll go ahead and take under 8.5 wins, even though they did pull out one of my biggest wins last year with that Hail Mary at the end of the game. I think you were on that one too, Kelly. I was on money line in that one. We needed that Hail Mary on the last play of the game.
It's very, very rare that I am on the right side of one of those, but you are correct, Marco. That helped me save a little bit of face on that Sunday. All right, VR, your thoughts on the NFC West? Did you make any bets?
No, I didn't make any bets. One of the toughest divisions from all the work I've done as far as getting power ratings to be ready for the season. Teams very close to each other. Here's what I want to add real quick. Marco nailed it with San Francisco. That's the team that's definitely on the come up. And in between the commercial break, we were talking about how sometimes we make it harder than it needs to be. And we really do. I'll share a story for you guys another time so we don't go long. But there's even been experiments that show less information has gotten better results for bettors. That's been proven. But here you go. San Francisco, you're going to see progression on their home record. Number 1, they went 1-7 at home last year. That's not going to happen again. This team isn't a 1-7 home team, but more importantly, they went 5-3 on the road. Only 8 teams in all of the NFL, in all of it, AFC and NFC, won 6 or more. In fact, only 1 team won more than 6 games on the road. That was Kansas City, who went undefeated on the road. So almost no one did better than San Fran on the road. They just got to win at home. That's something even bad teams have been able to do over the season. Again, I think they could only progress there. And looking at roster changes and all that, there's nothing but upside. I don't see any reason that San Francisco should remain in the cellar. Granted, tough division, like we said, with Seattle, Rams, Arizona, all seem improving. But I agree also with the Rams being a little overvalued. I don't know if Arizona is going to still take a next step forward. So, yeah, I like San Francisco, especially if we see a regression from Seattle. Everybody's been waiting for that forever, so may never happen. But, yeah, I like the San Francisco talk.
I love it, too. Thank you all for hanging out with us, previewing the NFC East. Catch us every single Wednesday. We're going to be live. Barking Dogs, Steam Plays, TNA, maybe a spot from the deli. 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific on the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Until next week, let's bet on it.
We've rolled back our football prices. WagerTalk's first full year was 2015, and we've lowered our football season packages to match what we charged that football season. Why? It's simple. We want to make our season-long packages an extraordinary value. You can buy a full college football season or full NFL season for only $5.99 each. But if you buy a college football NFL combo from the same handicapper, you pay only $8.99. Looking to mix and match handicappers? We have you covered. Just email support@wagertalk.com for a bundle discount and to create any handicapper combo you can dream of.